I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
I'm back, and we're live in 3, 2, 1.
Who is that on the board over there?
Jason Cleveland.
Back in the house. There he is.
Yeah.
Was Richie on hiatus?
Richie has left us in a lurch. A lot of this stuff isn't plugged in.
Took
right.
all the wires and went deer hunting, huh?
I don't know what's going on with Richie. I just don't. But Jason, it's good to see you.
Good to have you back.
Good back, Cleve, the OG.
Good to be here.
And his son Christian is, well, he's stateside now, but he's
The Cleve.
He'll be back in the Starkville, West Point area tomorrow. We're excited.
We need to go coon hunting with him.
We do.
Yep. Maybe we can do that in February.
Yeah,
I tell you what, he's ready for that.
I bet he is.
For coon hunting.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be fun in February.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody, West Point, Mississippi,
Here we
home
go.
of the Gamekeeper Studio. We are so excited. Gosh,
Deer season.
It's a lot going on.
It's deer season.
It is, and so rifle season comes in Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
in several states. It's already in some places. I'm seeing a lot of social media is full of people killing nice deer.
Yeah, rut's going on in some places. Kentucky, just winding down up there from what Bronson was saying.
Yeah, we're looking. We're Bronson is sitting there in his Bottomland shirt
Looking
and
good.
He's
His
shaved.
Bottomland MSU Deer Lab shirt.
He looks so studious.
Yeah. He's a
looks
smart
so
looking guy,
smart.
that's for
Yeah,
sure.
he
does look
really
smart.
is. Yeah.
Even in camo, huh?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute now.
Yeah, we always wear
You know,
camo. That hurts.
But Bronson is here. We're going to talk about hitting the horns for
that's
Bronson. Talk about abnormalities in deer. We got a lot of questions, and you've got answers.
I hope.
Always.
And
It depends.
It depends.
It depends. Yeah, we're proud to have you, Bronson.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Always.
Our rut's a month out.
At least.
And, I'm kind of jealous. You see these people like my buddy Eric in Missouri, North Delta Outfitters. He's been deer hunting all year. Now he's hunting the rut, and then duck season's about to open right when the rut ends.
Yeah.
It's just not fair. You know, our rut's right in the middle of Christmas and duck season.
I love when our rut hits.
Yeah.
During the
Really?
holidays.
Those Christmas holidays.
But you have to choose. Am I going to go duck hunting? Am I going deer hunting? Am I going to hang out with my family?
Well, you go hunting with
Yeah.
your family.
Well,
That's what you do.
You get a couple of deer killed, and then you go duck hunting in the morning.
Yeah.
You just do it all, don't you?
Well, I get it.
And
But,
it
I
gets
mean,
dark
it
so
would
early,
be
it's fun.
nice to have a bunch of swollen neck bucks running around all November. Get your rut hunting out of the way. Then you can focus on duck season and Christmas and family. So, but that's not the way it is.
No.
So we're just gonna move on.
Life in fair, Dudley. A fair is someplace where you take a pig and win a prize.
Yeah.
Well, we can
Okay.
go down south, Dudley. We can hunt the rut in January in
There you go.
Mississippi,
That's
southern
true.
half of the state. So
That's it. Yeah. Make a 3-hour drive every afternoon.
Post duck season, yeah. So you can just postpone deer hunting until after
Yeah.
duck season.
Okay. Easy enough.
So speaking of bow hunting, have you guys seen this new Matthews lift in
I am
Bottomland?
so pumped about this. I hadn't been fired up about.
You haven't wanted a bow in a long time.
I mean, I've built 2 bow targets back here this week just because of this Matthews thing, 100%. So
Bronson, have you heard about this?
I have heard about it, and I wanted to thank you. I was told you were going to give me one for a test drive.
there we go. Get him on the list.
We should. Everybody wants one of these things. I don't.
I'm going to buy one. There's no question about it. I mean, it's been coming for 30 years. I mean, we planted our flag in bow hunting and turkey hunting a long time ago, and Matthews is one of the leaders in the archery business. I'm just excited about it.
You know, our friend Kenny Thompson has a bow store called Top Flight in Jackson, Tennessee, and he's one of the top Matthews dealers in the country. He's been texting me for 2 weeks, and I finally just had to. What do you do when you block somebody?
Oh, yeah.
Because he's texting me so much about how he's so excited about this bow. It's the best bow ever made and the best camo ever made.
It's bottomland, and there's some new innovation in it, I believe, the cams and stuff like that, isn't it?
Something about it retains more the arrow. It retains more downrange energy, and I don't know how. We're going to have somebody explain all this, but
100%.
Suffice it to say, you guys go check out the new Matthews.
Yeah,
archery.
it seems like the bow manufacturers have picked all the low-hanging fruit over the years, and the way they put that the vibration dampeners, it now has 4 limbs instead of 2.
Yeah, split limbs.
And there's vibration dampeners between each pair of limbs. Nobody's done that. So
How about that?
I'm pumped. So get ready.
Bronson, I don't have you a bow, so I hope you're not going to be too disappointed, but we'll introduce you to somebody
It
that
sounds
might
kind of let
can help
down.
you.
Next time.
Yeah.
Next time.
We might, Lanny, I hope I get to see you in one soon because you have been talking about this bow for a long time.
I'm going to order one, so just get ready.
Yeah. Do you think they'll make one with long enough draw
I'm
for
going to get
you?
the biggest one they got.
Lanny,
What do you got, 33-inch draw?
Whatever it is, wide open is what it is.
tell us about your targets. I think, some of our listeners are familiar with what you did, but it's pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, growing up, actually, one of my best friends was named Brian Franks, and we grew up shooting archery, shooting bows every day. His dad was a big archery guy, Joe Franks, and back then we used what we called them butt targets, cardboard butt targets. So we would save. He actually worked at a food vending place, and we would save cardboard. So the master packs that stuff would come in, and then once we got a big stack of the same size of cardboard, then we would compress those with threaded rods between 2x4s. And it makes an unbelievable archery target. I mean, you can shoot it and shoot it and shoot it for years. You can't shoot broadheads in it is the only thing.
Oh, you can shoot them in it.
I mean, you can shoot them in it, but you're going to have to unscrew your insert and pull your air out.
I mean,
there.
they're far from portable. I
Yeah.
mean, they're a little portable, but not the kind you throw in the back of the truck and
it's
take
not
to the
the fun.
hunting camp. But it's your good permanent for your,
Yeah.
like we shoot behind the office.
Behind the office or in your backyard. It's got a little tin shed over it, and it's just a lot of fun. Mainly, for the kids. It's big, too. So it's 6 foot tall, about 4 feet wide.
So even Bobby can shoot
Yeah, so you
at.
can even hit it, Bobby.
Hey, you know what? Y'all give me some grief. But look who brought on the meat a week or so ago.
That's right. Oh, Robin Hood over there.
Bronson, do you remember that big deer? I've sent you
Yeah.
so many pictures. You got tired.
222 pounds.
Look, the reason that deer died is because Bronson kept saying you just need to get. Because I wasn't.
He's eating all his feed.
It
I
wasn't.
mean,
It wasn't his antlers, but Bronson kept saying you need to get that deer out of there because he's holding the spot that another deer could move in there or something like that.
Eating a ton of food a year.
How many pounds
Over
of
a ton
sausage
of
you eat
food.
on that thing? Yeah, he definitely ate a ton.
Normally when I take a deer to the processors, you get 1 bag.
Yeah.
I got 2 bags. Yeah, I can't. I mean, he's
How close was the shot?
22 yards.
Nice.
Sure was. It was very exciting. I've relived
I
it
bet.
in my mind 1,000 times.
I'm proud
for
of you,
you.
Bobby.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Pulls
Almost.
a rabbit out of the hat all the time.
Yeah, and you're right. There's
That's a
something
lot of snack sticks.
something special about drawing back and it's just a really good feeling.
It's exhilarating. It really is.
Yeah. Okay, y'all go
Right.
check out the Matthews
In Bottomland.
Bottomland.
The light, is that what it's called?
Lift.
My bad.
Lift.
So it's called the lift?
It's called the lift.
Man, in Bottomland.
I
Can't
think
wait
it's
to see
something
that.
to do with it being so light that it's easier to lift or
Oh.
something like that. But they shaved lots of
Considerable
weight
weight
off
off
of
of
this model. Yep.
Yeah, so super excited about that.
All right, so let's move blood on the biologics. There's a lot of youngins killing big deer too.
Yes, sir.
And look, I'll start it off with Max Rustin. Lives right here in West Point. His dad used to work for Biologic.
Jason.
Max, he is a killer.
Yeah.
He killed a buck last week, so congrats to him. And
Our friend Tuck from right here in West Point, Elena and Dr. Jacob's son, he went out to Kansas and shot a big old mule deer.
yeah, Tuck Trull.
Yeah.
That's his first deer.
That's
Goes to
pretty cool.
a big mule deer.
That's pretty awesome.
How cool
It
is
really
that? Yeah.
Have y'all seen the deer that came from Hancock County? Oh, my
Yes.
goodness. This young girl, I think she's 8 years old, Sailor Stiglet, 157-inch 8-point in Hancock County. It's an unbelievable deer.
Well, tell people that aren't from here why is
It's
that
a coastal
so?
county.
Yeah.
It really is. So I guess it'd be coastal plains. What is it? Bay St. Louis? Is that right?
Gulfport, all of that.
Waveland.
Yeah.
Waveland.
It's a great story, and I'll go ahead and tell you. I spoke with her dad today. They're going to be on.
What? You got them lined up?
We're going to record with them for a bonus podcast. We're going to record Monday and get the story from him and get her to tell the story.
Well, I think several people said it's a monster deer. It's kind of abnormal from there. Bronson, you can help us understand. I don't know if he just got that old or, I mean, he was just the Michael Jordan of Hancock County. I don't know, but he's a giant.
And the Magnolia records, I hadn't looked at them in a while, but, you know, the state keeps up with the list. You know, when you submit a deer and it gets scored, I want to say those 2 coastal counties, I don't know if a 150's ever been recorded or maybe just like one.
Well, let me tell you, there's 150s and there's 8 points that are 150s, and I mean this thing's got 24-inch main beams, I believe. You know, it's huge. It really is. So I'm excited to have her on the podcast.
Yeah, can you imagine that being your first deer?
No.
Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah.
In terms of expectations, that's gonna be hard to top.
Yeah, I mean a 157-inch 8-point from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I mean, how would you compare that to like a Midwestern deer? I mean, that would be 230s maybe?
Oh, I would think
the
so.
Rarity?
Well, I took a picture of it and, of course, sent it to my buddies and told them I killed it in my place. And
you sent that to me last
night. But the truth is, it would be more common for it to come from here than it did from down there.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's pretty exciting. So congratulations to them. I think a lot of people are aware of that deer, but so hopefully
we'll hear the story
when you hear the story.
Yeah,
cool.
I got one more. A friend of mine from Montgomery, Brett Sykes, has a son named Hank.
Hank.
I think it's an 8-point. In youth season last week, he killed that, so he's real excited. And when I saw Hank with that deer, big smile, and I think his brothers had killed some deer, so he wanted to get in on the action. But it also makes me think about Hank Williams Jr. We still have not heard from him.
Has he not called you back yet?
No. Look, if anybody knows him,
you're gonna have to write him a letter.
I don't know if I knew where to mail it, but he'd be the great get. Bronson, we want to talk to him about hunting, not about music or anything.
Oh, of course.
And I'd love to hear some hunting stories from him. So.
He would have a bunch, guaranteed.
Yeah, maybe he'll call you one day.
I hope so. It's probably gonna wake up one day and he'll be on somebody else's podcast. That'll hurt my feelings. So. All right, so. Bronson.
Yes.
You and I talked a couple of weeks ago, and you were like, man, we've got to talk about abnormalities. That people get confused when they get to the skin and shed and see something really. I mean, look at Dudley. He's kind of abnormal a little bit, but then once we kind of understand what's going on with Dudley, we'll overlook it. So
I'm the new normal, Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you hear about that people ask questions and are confused about?
Well, here's how it typically starts is we have and people are running cameras 365 days now, but there's without a doubt more people are putting out cameras when we get close to deer season.
Sure.
Bucks are out of velvet. We're trying to pattern them, see what bucks are on the property, etc. So typically it starts with photos. And those photos are going to be what's wrong with my deer. I see something. And those kind of fall into 2 categories. It's we kind of call them warts, the deer warts, but it's a fibroma, and that's the one I think that people kind of find it most alarming. It can be very, very simple, and it's a wart. It's caused by a virus. Some of them will regress over time. But that's really a good kind of social media photo, and we put one on our social media page a year ago. Some deer have the unfortunate consequence of having them all over their body. And so they'll typically be dark and they're hairless, and most often it'll just be one. And it'll be on the neck or on the face, and no big deal. But then you'll have some to where literally all of its neck or all of its shoulder, half of its body, and people conclude that, does my deer have cancer? And something like that can certainly happen, but it's just a wart.
It's kind of gross.
It's unsightly and it's worrisome, and rarely is it ever a source of mortality. So the wart is never going to kill the deer. The only instances are when it gets really, really bad that it can impede the vision of the deer. So it's like secondarily. It's got them on its face, and so it can't acquire food efficiently, or it can't see, predisposes it to mortality. But it doesn't hurt the deer. And most importantly, if you want to do it, I understand some people get squeamish of this, but put some gloves on. But when you skin the deer, you will notice that wart, that fibroma, is attached to the skin. It's not growing in like some tumor attached to the meat. So there's zero concern for the venison.
I've
So
killed
you
deer
think-
with warts on them. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
And I think we all have.
You think you could slice a few of them real thin and batter them up and
Oh,
fry
Dudley,
them?
Oh,
come on.
The abnormal, right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
That got him right there.
See, Bronson didn't even have a funny face. He thinks that that could be
Put
done.
little Tony Sacheries on
Yeah.
it, fried
Oh,
up.
goodness.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna go for them loins. Sorry.
You can have all the warts you can.
yeah,
want,
you take the warts.
So, so that is a common one. You see that.
I mean, y'all
And
seen
that's
that too, right?
That's
Oh, yeah.
How'd you cuteness?
Cutaneous.
Cutaneous, just meaning skin.
Cutaneous
Fibroma.
Fibroma. I'm learning today. I like it.
Well, you mentioned cancer. Have you ever gutted a deer, field dressed a deer, and
Knew it had cancer.
knew it had cancer?
I have not. I've heard of that, just like with the dogs. When you're working with the vet, they can have it, and I've heard people talk about it. But Bobby, I've never seen it. There's another internal parasite called a liver fluke, and on a deer I have harvested, I've never seen that. But that is one of those things where, and if people want to use Google here, you can get some images online. But when you pull the liver out, you're used to seeing that it's smooth, that dark red or maroon color, and it'll be all these cysts that are on it, and when you cut one of those open, a big old worm, a flat worm, will come out that's about the size of your thumb. And it's one of those, again, it's going to give you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, I'm
that
looking
here's
at one.
this. Yeah, okay, you're looking at one. Yeah. And some unfortunate deer, if it's just one, it's no big deal, but it's probably going to give you pause. You're probably going to think, I don't know if I've got some big old worm living in my deer. I don't know if the meat's going to be okay, but it is. It's just fine. And most deer have no problem with them at all. But when it makes social media or makes the internet, it's one of these rare cases that's absolutely grotesque, admittedly, when it'll have 20 or 30 of them. And so that nice, smooth liver is just all these little cysts and little bulbous pockets and all that in it. It looks gross, but it's a normal parasite of deer.
So, being a biologist, would you, before that deer was gutted, would you be able to look at it and go, that deer's probably got liver flukes?
Probably not. There could be some severe case where it was compromising liver function. And I'm speculating here. I didn't learn this. I'm speculating. Maybe compromising liver function and therefore affecting its physiology and maybe have some weight loss. But I've never been with any other deer expert that looked at a deer on the hoof alive and said, I bet it has liver flukes. No, it's never been the case.
It's just a parasite that they pick up. I'm sure
That's
it's
right.
passed around with eggs or larvae or something like that.
That's part of being a deer.
Yeah, part of being a deer.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Bobby might have a liver fluke. Looking at him,
I could.
pale over there.
The other big one pre-season is one, so there can be some concern here. But the one that we get most of all in the fall are people confusing the transition of summer coat to winter coat. Without fail. What's wrong with my deer? It's losing all its hair. Why is its hair so patchy? Mm-hmm. And it's just the normal pelage replacement that's going on. And some of it do it a lot more uniformly. And it's really hard to perceive, and some of them it'll be very patchy. Mm-hmm. And so people think there's a problem. And people will automatically conclude, and I get it, that does my deer have the mange? And the one thing when they do have the mange, it's pretty apparent if you can get a close-up look, because it's not just an absence of hair. There are infections.
Yeah.
The skin looks really, really rough. And if you were to get a microscope or a magnifying glass, is that all of the hair follicles, where the follicle is and the hair was, is going to have a mite. down in there, burrowed down in there,
Okay.
causing a little infection. So that's for that really rough, scaly looking skin infection, and it's housing mites, and it does. It looks bad. But they live through it.
Kind of like the chupacabra coyotes.
Yeah.
That's
a
mangy
mangy
as well.
chupacabra.
Wow.
Right.
When we were young, I mean, it was a very common thing for dogs to get the mange. Is it the same thing, just on the deer?
It's probably a different kind of mite,
Yeah.
but generally the same thing. Yeah.
I've never had a dog get the mange.
Yeah. You didn't live far enough out in the country.
I guess not. Our dogs were a little.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they would dip them in burnt motor oil.
Burnt motor oil with 7 dust in
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So it would stick. Was that what
Yeah,
the motor oil?
I don't know what it did, but they didn't have the mange anymore. I was really
Still
young.
might kill the dog, but it didn't have
we
mange.
was
you know?
really young.
I've-
Yeah, and
I've heard
7
that
dust.
too.
Everything got 7 dust back
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
I think I've even been 7 dust.
I know I
have.
But it's another one, Bobby. It first of all, it's very, very rare for a deer to have the mange, but it happens. I'm sure right now in Mississippi there's a deer with the mange,
Running around with the
but it's really, really rare. And then when you see it or someone captures a photo of it, it gets circulated, and you kind of think it's more prevalent than it really is. But it's of no population concern whatsoever. It's an unfortunate individual, and they're probably going to live through it. So not a big deal.
I was about to ask, should we try to take that animal out if we saw one like that? Is it?
I mean, if you had your new lift and
Yeah.
it's 20 yards away and you got a good shot, why not?
Let it do it.
Yeah.
Let the air out of her.
But I wouldn't worry over it.
Hey guys, Dudley from Gamekeepers here. I want to tell you about the all-new Gunner Dog Bowl. It's designed for home and built for travel. It's customizable, leak-resistant, light on weight, solid on durability, and rust-proof. Like other Gunner products, they're made in Nashville and designed for everywhere.
Well, so I've been seeing a deer recently that looks like it's got a molar that is, I mean, the side of her jaw is just swollen up like something is going on there, and I can see so many ribs. She looks like she can't eat as well as my thought.
Yeah.
What do you think could be going on there?
The most probable thing going on, so I mean, there's always some chances something different. She broke her jaw or something, but that's probably not the case. Most likely, some people will call it lumpy jaw, but basically, and this is what is really interesting about it, is the lump that you're seeing is a food compaction. So it's almost like a deer with a cud, big old chew of red man or something in its mouth, and you can literally see it from the stand externally. You don't even need your binoculars often. You can see it on trail cam photos. Deer turns around and, it's got this big mass on the side of its jaw. And so that is food. And the reason that it's collecting right there is because of a parasite that's called arterial worms. And those arterial worms, a roundworm, they collect, part of their life cycle is they lodge in the carotid arteries right here. As such, if enough of them accumulate, it reduces and restricts blood flow to the jaw area. Because of that, it causes a paralysis. And so the deer can't normally move its tongue, move its jaw, muscles around to clear it out. And so that stuff just resides there. It can't do anything about it. And if it happens long enough, the deer's going to get tooth decay. It lose its teeth. It could erode the jawbone and all that sort of stuff. I saw one, Bobby, very similar to what you're describing. I'll try not to turn this into too long of a story. It's about 2 years ago, and I was looking at what I thought was this doe, and it came a little closer. I'm like, oh, that's a little buttonhead, that's a little buck fawn, and but then it even got closer to me, and I'm like, that is a tiny little spike, and so it was a yearling buck, even though it was about the size of what I thought was a buck fawn. And when he turned his head, the poor rascal had a big old food impaction from arterial worms, and so it was affecting him physiologically. Simultaneously, a few minutes later, a healthy yearling buck walked out right beside him and was about 30% larger, And so in that case, that really sensitive part of his growth, he was not getting enough food. That was affecting him and causing his body size to be a lot smaller. But it's another one of those things. It's really, really common. It's not a population concern at all. It's just another one of those that happens to some individuals. It's probably not going to kill them, but it really, really stinks while they're dealing with it.
Mm-hmm. Would you take him out if you had a lift and he was at 20 yards?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Would you eat him?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking.
So Dudley's, here's where you talk about opening up the carotid artery and getting the roundworm out and putting them in a little black batter and peanut oil.
No, yeah. I don't know about that. That sounds pretty
That's
gross.
some Andrew
bro.
Zimmerman stuff
You're crazy.
right there. Yeah.
A fibroma's okay, but not a
Yeah,
roundworm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so far, nothing is, aside from making it sounding kind of gross, nothing has prevented you from eating an animal.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the grossest, I guess grossest defined everybody different ways. I think the one that gives people maybe the most shock is that you shoot a deer, everything looks completely normal because it, for the most part, is normal. And then you go get to the skinning shed and you hang it up. And you're hanging it up upside down, back legs up, nose down. And all of a sudden, these things, these grubs, these worms start coming out of the deer's nose and hitting the concrete or the ground. And so you immediately, man, this thing internally, it's got maggots. That's what a lot of people think. I got these big old maggots in my deer, so there's something's going on. It's rotting on the inside. And that, again, is a completely normal life cycle of a bot fly that affects a deer.
Nasal bots.
A nasal bot, yeah. And if you want to see some of that in action, if you go to our YouTube channel, a couple years ago, I was working on a deer and I was getting the CWD sample out of it. And so I was very close to the nasal cavity. And I looked in there and they're alive. I mean, even though that deer is dead, when you get access to that nasal cavity, all those little grubs, they're moving. They're moving. And so, of course, I'm a biologist, so I had my gloves on. Oh, yeah. And I reached in there with my finger and started pulling them out. And it's about a handful of those are in both those big, large nasal cavities.
They look like they make really good fish bait.
We tried it. Me and Craig Harper.
Y'all put one on a hook and tried to catch a bluegill or something?
Yes. Tried to catch a bluegill, but I'm not going to blame it on the nasal bite. I think it was timing because it was cold. Yeah, and I don't think the bluegill was biting.
Somebody do that and send us a photo.
Yeah.
I don't think I've as many deer as I've dressed. I don't think I've ever had a.
Because you clean them so fast, Lanny.
I do clean them fast.
Yeah, at Portland Landing, I
remember
saw
seeing
one.
Yeah,
sure did.
We went through a lot of deer down there.
I was grossed out by it too.
I think it happens almost more often than not.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet you $1 million.
I'm sure they had them. I just didn't see them.
That's right.
Yeah,
it just wasn't. The deer wasn't hanging long enough, probably, where one wiggled out its nose.
Well, now
we run them through pretty fast.
Yeah.
Aren't there instances where you see a deer just like shaking its head, just like something's going wrong with its nose?
It's got a giant
booger
in there.
I mean, they can't pick their nose like you do, Bobby.
Oh God,
I'm just on a roll today.
You
I'm
are.
sorry. I'll calm down.
It was that wild boar tasso jambalaya.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna quit being mean.
Yeah.
All right,
but you will see them like, of course, it's not like a sneeze, but you'll see them kind of exhaling, through their nose a lot. And that may be what they're doing. It may be irritated. The bots may be wiggling around inside of them. You will also notice, and I've seen this one time, and I can't promise you this is what happened, but we think that deer know the fly that is the bot fly.
Huh.
And so how the life cycle happens is during the springtime or summertime, the bot fly has to land and lay its egg on the nose of the deer. And so one time I was doing a spring health collection, herd health check, and I was watching this doe in a food plot. I didn't know what was going on at first, but literally, just jumping and bounding and flipping and all that, and would stop for a minute. and hold her nose up in the air. And evidently, I think it was a botfly trying to land on her nose. I've never seen a deer behave like that. She was not having it at all. Yeah. So
isn't that how EHD is transferred by a botfly? Is
Midges.
it a different kind of midge? Not
a gnat or a midge.
A good gnat.
Yeah, a gnat. That's right. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, good. I was confused about that.
That's interesting about the bot. So it's a specific fly?
It is.
What does it look like?
Kind of like a housefly?
It's kind of like if I remember correctly, a large housefly. It's mainly very dark black, but I think there's a little on its abdomen, a little yellow, maybe a yellow stripe or something like that.
Anything we could do as gamekeepers to try to cut down on the number of botflies that are around?
I don't know if this is the answer, but it's probably a good one because it works for everything else. Probably prescribed fire.
Hey.
How about that?
Look at there. Oh.
Mosquito dunks. You can just put them everywhere. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know, Bob.
They've had botflies for hundreds of thousands of years, and they do just fine with them.
I'm
live
sure
right
it's
through it.
Not just specific to deer. They get in horses and cattle and other stuff.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Other flies like that have evolved for a lot of different species, and so it's really, really common.
Man, thank goodness.
We don't have those.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, don't fall asleep when you're turkey hunting.
Yeah. At the old.
I think we do have
blowing out your
them,
nose.
just not in the U.S. I think other countries.
And then they've got those flies that'll have their stage under your skin, like if you're on a Amazonian fishing trip or something like that. Yeah.
Now there's that one that goes up your urethra.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, is that a fish?
Yeah, if you're,
does
like
that,
if you were in the water swimming or something, you could potentially get this little worm.
fly?
No, it's a worm that travels up your urethra.
I think Austin had that one time from checking duck holes, didn't he?
I don't know, but I got a real small urethra. I don't need anything like that.
Are you guinea worms, Dudley? Is that what you were thinking of?
I
The
don't
guinea
know.
worms, and it comes out. I mean, it's like a couple feet long, I think, and it comes out through your feet. And big efforts to
No,
eradicate.
that is not what I've heard of.
Okay.
I was thinking of one that just kind of burrows under your skin, and and then it gets all swollen, almost like a tick bite.
Okay.
But then, you can get it out, and it's an actual larvae.
Yeah, there's a girl I follow on. Y'all don't look at me like that.
Yeah, we know. We follow a lot of girls.
She's a fisherman.
Okay.
She's a fisherwoman.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
she
sure.
was in Brazil or something, South America, and something bit her on the top of her head. And then when she got home, she was complaining about her head hurting, and went to the doctor, and he cut out some kind of larva out of the top of her head.
Oh, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, what's next?
Well, Laney brought up, I guess that's a good segue. He brought up the midges, or the gnats, and they're of the genus Culicoides, but EHD. And so we're all familiar with that hemorrhagic disease, the blue tongue viruses. I think we did a podcast on that several months ago. But one of the telltale signs of that is, and if you're like in Mississippi or other places, and part of a deer management program through your state wildlife agency, a lot of times on the data sheet, they'll have a little box for hoof sloughing, yes or no. And hoof sloughing is just an indicator that the deer had HD and lived through it. And so as we talked about in the past, it's a virus. It kills some deer, not hardly as many in the South.
Yeah.
Very, very few in the South. When it hits the Midwest, it's a really, really big population level problem. But in the South, not as big of a deal because they're confronted with that virus all the time, antibodies and so forth.
They just adapted to
not a
be
big
more
population
resistant.
level
Yeah.
problem for them. But so they live through it. But while they're dealing with that virus, it interrupts the growth in their hooves. Kind of like when humans, when we can get really sick, it can show a line on your fingernails where it stopped growth. And so that little line is just indicating that it had EHD and it lived through it. But that's the way your state wildlife agency can monitor how many, prevalence rate in a year and so forth. Just a good way to keep track of that.
Your daughter's been begging you to hunt since her little brother shot the big 8 last year. You've ran a fire, dissed the fields, got stuck, got unstuck. Planted food plots, fertilized, and prayed for rain. You moved trees, limbed roads, even bought one of those fancy cell cameras.
So what's your excuse?
LS Tractor.
Moultrie was first in feeders since 1979 and is the leader in total game management. They're taking feeding to another level with the new Ranch Series line of durable and versatile feeders, perfect for both wildlife and domestic livestock. So Dudley, you can feed your goats. Whether you're a deer hunter, a hobby farmer, a land manager, or a rancher, Moultrie has you covered with several kit options, including a rotating auger, broadcast, or a gravity kit. And these feeders are 300 or 450 pounds. They're big feeders. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount.
It seems like in the South, growing up deer hunting down here, I've seen that a lot in my whole life. But it seems like EHD has just, in the last 15 years, come on in the Midwest. Is that just because of observation we didn't know it, or was it always up there, or did it move up there?
I think it's been up there for a long time, but I think different strains of it, and so it's a virus evolving, just like COVID every year. Yeah, and so a strain will get up there, and there's even some linkages to weather events that can be pushing the gnats up, or a greater proportion of them. And it's just simply that they don't have the doe to fawn antibodies. Because when you have a couple generations of deer, when you go 5 to 10 years and no individual has confronted the virus, they don't have the antibodies to it.
Right.
And so it's a larger mortality.
So it's possible that they could get more resistant to it over time.
Yeah, if you confronted them with the virus every year, every other year, absolutely. Yeah.
And social media is probably making it more.
Yeah, I mean, information, everybody knows about everything now. Well,
right.
Or at least what everybody pretends it is. So,
yeah. It's sad to see.
We need to introduce some Mississippi deer to the Midwest.
Yeah, we'll drop one off. I think that might be illegal, but.
It would be. Yeah.
We'll use your truck, Dudley. We'll use your truck.
But it is sad to see these, our friends of ours that have work to manage their properties and do this.
It just
and
devastates
them. It seems like the biggest deer they have are the ones that they end up finding.
Yeah. It's terrible. There's no question about it. Years ago, when Harry Jacobson was here, in the deer pens, he was cooperating with the Michigan State Wildlife Agency, and they had some Mississippi deer up there and some Michigan deer down here. Well, it happened to be one of those years, like it often is, where we had EHD outbreak, and the Mississippi deer didn't bother any of them at all, or maybe a 1% mortality, whereas it knocked out about half of the Michigan deer.
Half is a lot.
Have we ever told you the story that a young Lanny Wallace
here we go,
left Tupelo, Mississippi in his pickup, in his Bronco, headed to Starkville to be a freshman?
I think I've told
Bronson. And the first thing he did wasn't go to his dorm room or ride through the campus and look at the football stuff. The first thing he did was go to the deer pens. And I think he got out and just wanted to see what those bucks look like through his scope. And somebody ended up.
I did not have a rifle on me.
Somebody ran them off?
Yeah. Well,
I actually didn't get run off. I walked all around the deer pen and looked in it. And it was great. I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be here.
You're at home now.
I'm at home. Yeah. Oh, bulldog.
I bet that ends up happening a lot, but not the first thing that they go to.
That is the first thing I did, 100%. Yep. Well, I mean, what else was I to do?
Dudley, what was the first thing you did when you landed at college?
There's this thing called the statute of limitations, I hope. But, I moved mine and my dad's guns into the dorm.
I did the same thing.
Had no idea that you couldn't do it. I put like 30 guns in the closet of my dorm room, and I'm
the same way. I had
thankfully the ER or whatever you call the RA at the end of the hall was big duck hunter, and we had been talking and hanging out. Maybe a couple months later, I actually invited him to go hunting with me at the duck camp, and he was helping me pack and came into my room, and I grabbed a shotgun out of my closet, and he was like, "Whoa, dude, you can't do that."
I had the same experience. I mean, I guess
so. I had to sneak them out and then take them.
Yeah, I might have been the only person that got in trouble by the RA for blowing a duck call. Yeah,
and I've heard a lot of stories about people skinning deer in the showers at
Mississippi State
at the dorms.
Yeah. I mean, it was Deer Lab, then dorm, then a beeline to the refuge. That's where I was.
Okay, let's get back on track. My bad. Let's get back on track.
Enough of my college stories.
What's
Dudley's are a lot more exciting than mine.
No comment.
Well, Dudley was in college a lot longer than
That's true.
Than most. Yeah. How many colleges did you attend?
What university in Mississippi did you not attend?
Southern.
There we go. That's about it.
Yeah.
Okay. What is this thing called Bullwinkle that you've got?
Thought that was a moose.
Yeah, that is something, and I don't know if we've ever had a case in Mississippi, but, and y'all may remember this, it's probably been like 10 years ago, and I remember seeing it in Quality Whitetails, the publication of QDMA, now NDA.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's it happens every year, an instance, or every other year. And what it is, it's basically just a nasal infection. And it just causes the muzzle of the deer to basically swell. So when you're looking at a deer where the eye cavity is and then it shrinks down to the nose, all of that area, that muzzle area, is just really, really inflamed. And so and then it causes its nose to be really, really big and bulbous. And so people just started calling it Bullwinkle
Makes
syndrome.
sense now.
Looks like Rocky Bullwinkle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it's one of those, I've never seen one in person before. I'm not even aware this ever happened in Mississippi, but it's one of those, again, that it gets a lot of social media play.
Yeah, and that meat would still be perfectly fine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The Rocky Bullwinkle show was the first cartoon to come on Saturday mornings when we were kids. It was like at 6 o'clock
on broadcast TV. Yeah.
That was a good cartoon.
It was a good one.
Yeah. Was that the guy named Dudley that was sitting on the horse backwards?
Dudley Do-Right.
Was that the same?
I think it was with a cartoon within that show.
Yeah. It was a Rocky Bullwinkle
and that
show.
Boris and Natasha.
Yeah, they were like that. Yeah, I remember that. That was good.
Todd can do a great Boris. Okay, well, we were getting way off.
We're all over it today.
All right, but the thing I'm taking away is anything that you've described really doesn't affect the meat here at all.
The only exception would be a brain abscess, and that is something that probably it kills bucks every single year. Absolutely no question about it. But it's probably less than 5%, maybe a couple percent. But there have been some studies, and I believe it was in Maryland or Delaware, I think Maryland, where for whatever reason, and the researchers didn't have a reason, but it was killing about 30% of the bucks every year. So a brain abscess is a combination of a bacteria and opportunity. And that is the reason. It's nothing about the bacteria that affects bucks differently. It would affect a doe also. It's just that bucks, because of their antler cycle, growing, shedding, and then sparring and all that sort of stuff, is there's more opportunity to have open flesh around the base, around the pedicle, etc. And then this bacteria, and there's several different ones, will get in there and basically cause an infection. And a buck may live with that infection for years, and he may completely get over it. But if the infection gets bad enough, it literally will eat through the cranium, get into the brain cavity, and kill the buck. Coincidentally, that is also this phenomenon in the South where lots of people call it different things, but commonly spike on a side. I got this big normal antler on the left side or the right side, and the other one is just a spike or a fork.
Yeah.
And if you ever harvest one of those deers, it's kind of hard to see that with photos, but if you ever harvest one and get your hands on it, 99 times out of 100, I actually have a specimen I should have brought with me to show you. 99 times out of 100, when you look at the antler base and the pedicle side by side, the one that is malformed, you can tell something's wrong with the pedicle. It'll be in a different location. It'll be shaped different. It'll be lower. It'll be high. Something is going on, and that is that bacteria interacting with the bone and the pedicle, and then it just changes the platform or the foundation that antler is growing out of. And so it's permanent when that happens. So it's not genetic, but it is there was some type of tissue break, abrasion, cut, the bacteria got in there, affected the bone, and it forever will affect the shape of that antler. And then, so that's the buck lived the rest of his life with a malformed antler. The worst case scenario is 6 months later, 18 months later, the infection persisted, got into its brain cavity, and killed the buck. And a lot of these videos that we'll see more this fall and winter.
Yeah, here they come.
Of buck doing something crazy. Buck walking up to hunter. You see buck circles, and a lot of people say deer's got CWD. It very well may have CWD. It could also have a brain abscess going on.
So why wouldn't you eat the meat?
I think that's just because of systemic infection.
Okay.
So you literally
blood infection.
When I say infection, I mean pockets of pus.
Okay, I'm out.
You can smell the infection.
Yeah, and it's not just
so
limited
that
to the
and
brain,
in
it
the
goes
bloodstream.
into the muscle,
So
it's
that's
in the
just,
nervous system and all of that. So
Nosler is known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting. From start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
Bobby, you'll have to, I can't remember stuff. You always help me more than anything. Weren't we talking to the Foxworthy crew, and they had a pedicle abnormality, genetic pedicle abnormality in their deer herd? And I don't know what percentage of it, but about every year they would have a malformed pedicle that would grow into the interior of the brain. You ever heard of that?
And those deer were brought in from Wisconsin, and they tracked that same problem was occurring in the same part of Wisconsin where those deer were brought from.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
And they've even we need to get some pictures of that, because they've got skulls and harvests
of them
where it will show the pedicle actually growing down into the brain, the bone during antlergenesis,
or when it was growing.
Yeah. Kills them. Look at him. He's never seen that before.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I plead ignorance on that one. I would love to see that.
Yeah, we'll have to get that. We'll have to dig that up.
Yeah, a fair amount of their sheds were just real odd. But somebody came over there and studied them. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I knew I remember. I didn't think I dreamed that up.
No, that's
it's
right.
always possible.
Okay. So, well, you when you said CWD, there's a couple of counties in Mississippi now where we're having some problems.
Yeah.
Are people? Is there something you need to tell people there about? I mean, they need to treat their deer any differently. What's the recommendation there?
What's the latest and greatest?
The single best recommendation is to turn in your samples. And MDWF&P makes it very, very easy. You don't need to be a nerd like me and actually get the sample. All you have to do is cut off the head. And they have a list on their website of all these drop-off locations. All they ask you to do is take the severed head. You're going to put it in a bag. You're going to put a label on it. And then about once a week, people are going to pick those up. Biologists are going to pick them up. They're going to take the samples out, and they will let you know if it was positive or negative.
What if it's a big buck and I don't want to give you the head? Can I cut the antlers off and give you the head? Or?
Work through your taxidermist. if that's where it's going. And MDWF&P has lots of relationships with taxidermists where they know how to get that sample for you.
So what would be, I know you don't, it's not finite, but what would be a typical turnaround time for once they pick up the samples to let you know if you had a problem?
I'm going to drop it depends
I would.
on you, Lanny.
Yeah.
No, here's why. Here's why. Those guys are all on a rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to every one of those freezers, about once a week. So it just may happen that in Chickasaw County, they come on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you were to go by and drop your deer head off on Monday,
yeah.
they get it up and then they get it back down to Jackson. And so you'll have a quicker turnaround versus we picked up on Tuesday, I dropped it off on Wednesday. You're going to have about another 4 or 5 day. So generally, I think they say, 8 to 14 days.
Oh, that's not bad.
Typical turnaround.
I mean, because we're hanging ours for 3 weeks anyway. So.
Oh yeah, situation like that, you're perfect.
Good.
So Bronson, as a guy with tentacles going into the scientific community
world,
all over,
everywhere.
I mean, if there was a word stronger than doctor that meant next level doctor,
That'd be him.
That would be Bronson.
That's him.
And
Super Doc.
Yeah, Super Doc.
Super Doc. I like
Super
that.
Deer Doc.
Yeah, we used to call him Dr. Know-It-All, but now he's Super Doc.
Super Deer Doc.
Knows all.
My question is, so if somebody's listening to this in another state that doesn't have CWD issues, but they encounter a deer that's acting funny or maybe emaciated or some odd condition, what do they call their deer? I'm asking what you suggest people do.
Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest they do?
You hit the nail on the head. You call your state wildlife agency, your DNR, your MDWF&P, your state wildlife agency. They want to know that. And they will assess the situation. You might get an expert, a conservation officer, or a biologist that knows immediately what is going on and can tell them. Or they may, if it's something worrisome, they may want to collect or harvest the deer and take biological samples for testing.
Yeah. So if you see something, say something.
Say something.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Talk to your local game wardens. I mean,
and you're better off to say something before you do something. And by doing something, I mean lethally doing something.
nah. I've had some experiences like that, and they'll tell you what to do.
Pretty quick too.
No, real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just like to point out, guys, like these state agencies, they are trying to help us, and oftentimes on these, I do see things and hear people make comments, and they feel like that it's like a conspiracy on a lot of things.
They're not out. I mean,
they're not.
no,
They're trying to help, and
they're
we need
there
to give them
protect the resource. I mean, that's why I think the name warden, is a great term for them because that's what they're doing. They're guardrailing the resource.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping guys will be supportive of that comment and not buy into any conspiracy theories they hear at the fire pit.
Please don't.
Yeah, let's don't get there.
All right. What else there? Looks like there's one more.
Yeah, here's one that's confusing a lot is that, so you get the deer, whether it's on its back and you're field dressing it or you're hanging it up and in the belly, that white hair. Mm-hmm. And you get your knife on there, and you're getting the knife under the skin, and all of a sudden you got these creepy crawlies on your hands, or you see them going across the white fur. Mm-hmm. And everybody, including me years ago before I knew the difference, you think ticks, because it looks like ticks moving all over. And sometimes it'll be a couple, and sometimes you'll see 30, 40, 50 of them. Yeah. And that is actually a fly, a louse fly, and it's called a Ked. And what is that? That's part of also its growth cycle, where it had been a fly in the past with wings, but now it's ending its life cycle. It lands on the deer, kind of makes a home in its fur. Oh yeah. It sheds its wings, and then it starts its reproductive cycle right there. Then it'll lay its eggs, and then they grow, and then they'll leave and go turn into a fly, and then start that whole cycle again. But 99 times out of 100, or even more than that, when I'm with somebody, and they'll have the little creepy crawlies going on the belly of a deer, they think, man, it's eaten up with ticks. And it's not. It's just the life cycle of a louse fly.
See that a lot in bow
called a
season.
Ked.
A lot in bow season.
Mm-hmm.
Seen that a lot.
Is louse and lice?
Is that a plural?
Is louse plural of lice?
Believe so.
Got a lot of louses on it.
Because we had to delice.
I was going to say the same thing about you, Bobby.
Literally, we had fleas in here, Bronson. I don't want you to panic, but where you're sitting, we had a flea problem when we traced it back to Dudley.
Fleas and bed bugs, but don't worry about it, huh? Yeah.
Wow. I tell you what, there's a deer is a host to a lot of different abnormalities.
What about I saw a piebald deer last year that was almost all white. This always intrigued me. And you see, I guess that's just is that like albinoism? Is it just genetic? Is it just a rarity?
Yeah, it is a rarity. There's no doubt about it. So if it's not an albino. A complete and total albino is completely white, no pigmentation whatsoever. Piebald, and I'm probably not the best person to ask about this because I'm not a geneticist, and it's a genetic characteristic. But from what I know, there are degrees of it. And extreme, if you're in the disease book of a piebald, is its face will look different. It has this big Roman type nose. Yeah. It can have curvature of the spine. It's typically going to be a lot smaller, and it's typically not going to live long. That is your classical piebald. Obviously, though, if you live long enough and hunt long enough, you're also just going to see some deer that look completely normal in terms of the spine and the face and all that, but they have some white patches on them. Yeah. And so my only knowledge about that is partial or to some degree, it's a piebald, but it's not a full classical true piebald. Yeah.
I wonder where the word piebald came. Is that like some Latin term or something?
Oh, let's go Google and see what's up.
Throwing some zingers my way.
Yeah, it's just an odd word, piebald.
Yeah, so is leucism the scientific term for piebald? Google.
Google.
The Google.
Well, so there's a guy in Tennessee. I showed you a picture of him.
Guy.
Yeah, it's a really big deer, big antlers, and it doesn't look like your typical piebald.
Right. So I would say, that's kind of the example of it has some of the piebald characteristics, but it's not a true piebald.
What about and I get albino. Have you ever heard of, seen of, come across a case of, not in person, of a totally black deer?
There's actually, so kind of the same phenomenon about expression of pigment. That's called a melanistic phase. And it's very, very rare, but there are some populations to where it is far more prevalent within that population. And the years I was living in Texas in graduate school, there was a population, I think it was in the hill country area, but way above average. I'm not going to say it was every single deer, but you would commonly see those black or dark deer in that population. So again, it's just a genetic trait.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Might have been what you saw that you think you saw.
No, I know what I saw, Bobby. Don't make no mistake about that.
Bronson, there's a long-tailed cat was reported over just in Lowndes County, Mississippi,
Caledonia,
a few weeks ago, and this could be a rumor, but I'm told the game wardens went over there and checked it out. I don't know what they.
It's a mountain lion. Yeah, I think that's what they said.
The photos I saw were incredibly convincing.
And it was
but what was so weird was that
a Black Panther.
Yeah, no, it wasn't black.
You didn't hear anything about it afterwards.
No, and then all the locals around there was like, oh yeah, he's over here in Joe Bo's pasture over there the other day. Richie knows somewhere around there.
You would think that you would, Mississippi State, y'all would go investigate that. Yeah. Don't you have some free time, Bronson?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't hear anything about it. Yeah, if you have the photos, please send them to me.
I think we got them somewhere.
We'll loop you in.
Yeah.
We're in the know.
You are in the know. Absolutely.
Wasn't it like the principal of some high school or something's wife or husband or somebody took photos of it?
The school bus
daughter's principal or something like that, or the school bus driver or something like that.
School bus driver took the picture.
Yeah.
And it was in the yard of a principal at one of the like Columbus Christian Academy or something like that.
Yeah, Heritage, I think.
Yeah, maybe Heritage. Yeah, that's probably.
And so it was not a trail cam photo; it was a photograph
of somebody's phone, and it was wide angle and far away, but it really looked like a mountain lion. It did not look like a cat in the distance.
No.
Yeah,
it was very convincing. So we got to follow up on that.
Let me ask you this. So you're the super smart guy, although there's things we're becoming aware of that you don't know the answer to. But when you see, when you're looking at deer, are there things that you kind of key into that would help you know if that deer is healthy and the habitat is in good shape? Or if you see ribs, does that cause you concern, or is that one of the first things you look at? Or
Yeah. Just the body composition. You've probably heard livestock people say this. It looks fat and slick.
Yeah.
The coat, the pelt looks really slick. So typically that symmetry with the antlers. But if you have a good looking body, no ribs, no hip bones. And of course, if you have a big set of antlers, those are all indicators that buck has gotten everything it needs, habitat-wise and food-wise. Yeah.
Well, I'm just kind of watching these does and just trying to, and some are so much bigger than other ones, but and occasionally you'll see one, and especially if they've got nursing fawns, they just look run down, so to speak.
Well, the drought this year too. I think a lot of the deer we're looking at,
that didn't help.
Yeah, it did not help.
I've got a doe that's got triplets, and she does not look run down at all. She is, like you're saying, slick.
All that BCP she's eating.
I guess, but I am just amazed. They posted a picture a few weeks ago of last week on Gamekeeper Instagram of her out in a plot, and and two ran and started. This is latter October when this occurred, and then the third one is coming in. But you can tell she looks really good there. I was just shocked to see them nursing that late.
Yeah,
it was almost November. It may have been November when I took.
Yeah, it was. Seems like.
Yeah, it was last week or something.
She had those late.
Yeah, she had them late.
But she looks so good. I'm just amazed.
She might have caught that second rut.
It's all your habitat work.
Good for your habitat management.
There you go.
I don't know. I wish I could say that.
You might be a gamekeeper one day.
I wish I could say that, but she is she's like a mule.
And some mothers are just good at it, whether it's physiologically, whether it's greater milk production, whether it be their social status, and they occupy better habitat and have better fawning cover. That's something we're learning more and more, and I think it's showing this with turkey research as well. There was a study with deer research and does. There's a lot of repeatability. Successful moms are typically successful moms again and again. Unsuccessful moms are typically unsuccessful
That's
moms.
what we're hearing in the turkey world too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good mamas.
Yeah. Wow.
So she sounds like a good one.
Keep her around.
So I've kind of earmarked her like I don't want to shoot her.
Yeah.
Well, gosh, what have we not asked that we need to be asking?
Well, we did roughly. I mean, I don't know if we talked about it before the podcast started. Drury's had this post on dwarf deer. It was kind of interesting.
Were they joking or was
I don't know.
No, but I mean, look at all those commenters that came in with a bunch of photos of dwarf.
Yeah, go out to the
miniature deer
social page on Facebook and check it out. It's interesting. First I've ever seen of it. And Bronson was like, "What?" too. So
it kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about with the piebald thing.
Yeah, it just could be a genetic thing.
In fact, I think a couple of the photos in the comments were piebalds.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Had shorter legs, like you said, that real rounded looking nose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Well, I mean, just looking at humans, some are bigger than others.
Sure.
Could that have been a key deer?
The one that they had posted was in Florida, but just running through the comments, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time in it. There's pictures from all over the country of people claiming that they were dwarf deer.
And then you've also got, occasionally you'll see a photo floating around of a buck that's like just incredibly overweight.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. Like that one
Yeah,
barbecue,
like-
old pork chop.
I mean, just really overweight.
Yeah, I have seen that too, and I wonder if that's real or been photoshopped. Because Cleveland over here can Photoshop anything. He's made me quit believing images.
Yeah. Well, it's getting worse. So
Seriously though, with all that AI stuff on social media, you'll be scrolling around and you're like, "No way, that's real." That's
well,
Bronson, we'd love to talk to you about the study y'all did about bedding, but should we
about
do
run
that
out
as
of time. Yeah, we're gonna
as
do
another
another one.
podcast and get you back over here? And
that was super interesting to me.
Yeah. And we're still doing some more stuff with that. Why don't you give us a little more time to run some more numbers on that? And you could devote a full episode just to that.
I can't wait because just looking at that visual data was just extremely interesting.
Pretty eye-opening.
Yeah,
isn't
pretty
it?
eye-opening, really is. So check it out. It's on the Deer Lab social sites.
Yes.
Check it out
Yeah.
for sure.
well, look, Bronson. Normally, we at this point we ask you a trivia question, but I think you may have a trivia question for us. If I'm
Whoa.
not
Oh,
mistaken.
wait. Hold up.
But
Let me get my
nobody
computer
told
up.
us
Let me connect to the internet. Hold on just a second.
So we
Is the dial-up working?
This the dial-up is working, I think. Yeah. So
He's got his pencil out, too. We're in trouble.
yeah, we call this this segment is brought to you by our friends at Sheffield Financial because
I mean, financing is not trivial.
that it is not, and they're great people. They're financing ATVs and
LS
UTVs,
tractors.
LS tractors.
Yep.
Probably get your Matthews bow financed
Hey,
if you
maybe.
wanted to.
Yeah, there you
but
go.
they're great folks. There's 14,000 offices, so you can find a Sheffield office near you somewhere.
grief.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
of offices.
It is.
Yeah, cool.
So with that out of the way, because Richie's not here to help us with it, Bronson, what? Shoot.
Here we go.
All right.
Oh, and what do we get, Bronson? We always
We get to pick something out of Bobby's closet.
I'm going to let you go to Toxie's gun safe.
Oh,
Pick something out.
that's pretty
Yeah,
serious.
he's trying to get us in trouble. is what he's trying.
Yeah.
All right, so who's answering this? Or is this going to be a group effort?
Let's do a group.
Okay.
Yeah, a group. I've got some softballs, and then I might have to come with
There you
the
go.
high and hard fastball here. What is North America's oldest conservation organization? The very first conservation organization in North America.
I think
I think I know it, but do you think you know it?
Is it 2 letters with an and in between?
I think so.
It's my initials.
Yeah, it's Bobby and Cole, the Boone and Crockett
The
Club.
Boone and Crockett Club.
Yeah, that's very
exactly
interesting.
Teddy was
Yeah.
what a great.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't for trophy hunting, a lot of this we wouldn't have a lot of this.
Oh, here
Y'all
you
get
go,
on me
Mr.
about
Oh,
antlers.
it's all about
you
the
get on me
horns.
about antlers, but it was people wanting to see what those big mature animals.
Sure. Oh,
and
look,
recognize
there's nothing.
That's
I
right.
know we talk
They're-
about all
they
there's nothing
also
more
focus
infatuating
on
than joking.
ethics a lot.
Yeah, they do.
Still.
And
Fair
they do a lot of
chase.
conservation work. Fair chase, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We were all right.
There's
on
an organization called the Theodore Roosevelt
that.
what is it?
Conservation Fund?
TRCP.
Yeah.
I should know that, but
You
it's on
should know
Instagram.
that.
It's on Instagram.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Okay. We'll probably edit that out.
There is a process, a phenomenon called multiple paternity with lots of critters, but within white-tailed deer, multiple paternity means that the offspring of a doe, pregnant doe, have different fathers. So if it's Bobby's triplets over there, 1 or 2 of those have a different father than the other one. On the average, from the sampling we've done in Mississippi, what proportion of does have multiple paternity of their fawns?
Phew, that's a pretty tough question. I'm going to just, You going
I
right
was
down the
going to
middle?
say just split it down the middle, but they don't always have twins. So
Right.
that's cutting into the numbers a
Is
little
that a
bit.
percentage of twins?
Yeah. We're assuming twins.
Okay.
With that number, right?
Oh, this is a good question. I don't know the answer to it, but I'm excited to know the answer.
I don't think it's a high percentage.
You don't? I think it's a high percentage. I don't think he'd asked if it hadn't been a high percentage.
I think we have so many deer, there's not enough time to get around to.
I think we got so many deer, they all get around pretty good. I'm going to say 75%.
That's a little high.
Ah,
I was thinking 35%.
I'm sticking with 50.
Bobby Cole, 25.
25%.
Wow.
There you go.
Yeah. How about
Okay,
that?
last one. Let's go to some small game now.
Ooh.
What I'm trying to think of whether to ask y'all the country term or the technical term
Country,
here.
for sure.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Dudley might want the technical term.
So we were talking a lot about parasites with deer. Rabbits and especially squirrels
I think I know where you're going.
have this thing called cutaneous warbles.
Mm-hmm.
What's the country term for that?
1, 2, 3. Wolves.
And did they really go away when the first frost hits?
That's what my daddy always
That's
said.
what I always heard too. Mm.
And it's spelled.
WLVES.
Isn't it spelled with a U?
Where I have seen it was WLVES.
Okay.
But I don't know if that...
Have you ever
That's right,
seen
huh?
one?
Yeah.
Oh, they're
know
gross.
that I don't know
remember-
that I have.
I don't know that I have either. I've always been scared of them my whole life. I don't know.
We
if I've
used to
seen a
see them
squirrel.
on rabbits all the time
Did
when we
you?
were cleaning rabbits.
Yeah. Mm.
And it we would just
I like
It
this
didn't
reverse
really affect
trivia.
them.
This is
They-
good.
Yeah, and I like that he didn't stump us.
Yeah,
on
he
this
could really
thing.
smoked us if he wanted to.
Yeah, where was this hard high one? Where was that one?
That I didn't know the paternal thing. That's
Well,
That was an it depends too, because I
Yeah.
mean we could have. Hey, look, while I'm here, while he's looking at
so
for
get to
his-
work on my honorary masters.
Will do.
That
When
was
we get back to the office.
That group is called the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, TRCP, and they do some really interesting things to preserve our hunting and fishing heritage.
Oh, nice.
But that one guy started all this, Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy, I mean, no.
He was a tough son of a gun, too.
Paved the road.
You know,
really did.
Bronson, he got shot one time and would not, and kept going on with it. Got shot giving a speech and wouldn't let them take him away.
It's amazing.
Or got shot on the way to the speech and got up and gave his speech, and people could see that he was bleeding.
That's a tough fella.
He was tough as nails.
And I think he did like a bunch of stuff in the Grand Canyon. I mean, he went all over the place.
Oh yeah.
He was an adventurer for
yeah,
sure.
He was.
Well, he was the one that noticed. I mean, the timing was ripe. There was a crisis, but simultaneously is that there was no public land. So all this really came together with the Boone and Crockett Club and protecting land, and then coming up with a land ethic and fair chase. But basically, all these animals are gone or going away. You know, moving from east to west, about to have a complete collapse of bison, another big game. And then simultaneously now we're populating the western U.S., and we don't have these large areas.
Yeah.
There's no protection. So it was the era of exploitation. There were no game laws back then. So we're losing habitat. There's market hunting for the animals. And so he was the one, and luckily he was at a place of influence.
No
he
doubt.
had a voice, and he could step in there, and he was like Bobby, he's a mover and shaker. He knows people, get things going, and that is what started the Boone and Crockett Club, was conservation.
Yeah.
The North American model for conservation.
So,
Hey, I tell you what, there's nowhere else in the world.
you know, and I've also read that like Niagara Falls kind of got turned into a tourist trap early on, and that people were making fun, Europeans were making fun of America for the way that we treated Niagara Falls back then. And so that was a big influence to preserve these big chunks like Yellowstone and some of these other parks, but not make them like tourist traps.
Right.
Make them an experience.
Yeah.
And so he just a lot of wisdom there, a lot
Absolutely.
of foresight, and multiple people. But I think he kind of led the charge.
Yeah. And that really started the conservation movement, because it wasn't just about protection of land, it was conservation of land.
Right.
Conservation is wise use.
Right.
It's management. It means we can utilize the land, but do so wisely and sustainably. And that's what started the movement.
And then when the funding came for the Brown Pittman or Pittman, what's the
Pittman
act?
Robertson Act.
Pittman Robertson Act kicked in with the funding from license sales and all.
1937.
Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a job, fellas.
Probably
It's the
so.
truth.
Yeah.
Dang.
Bronson, this has been it's been fun. It always is whenever
always
you come
great
over.
to have you here, Bronson. No doubt about it.
Dr. Bronson Strickland,
Homeboy.
Mississippi State
That's
University. People can follow the MSU Deer Lab. You guys put out a lot of stuff.
Got a podcast. Follow them on social.
Yeah,
we just did an episode. It landed last week or this week. I can't remember.
Landed.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know. I'm just, he's so hip. Word.
It was recently uploaded. How about that?
Okay.
But regarding drought and food plots. And so we had an agronomy expert with Mississippi State with the Extension Service that does a lot of research with cover crops. He also hunts, and so he really gets into the food plot stuff. But he really talked us through about what is going on here in the South and what to expect. What can you do to be proactive? So that was a really good episode for.
We need to listen to that.
People going to share.
Yeah.
And he just killed like a 190-inch booner in Kansas, too.
I'm not even listening to him then. I'm doing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
A Boone and Crockett.
That's
190-inch.
It may be 200, including non-typical.
What did it weigh? Do you know that?
Was it 222?
Because that's kind of what I'm keying in on. Is weight.
254 pounds. How about that?
Yeah. Wow.
Big deer.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm jealous already, and I don't even know who this is, or I hadn't seen the deer. But
he's a good guy.
Deer.
We're going to have to listen to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Good.
Isn't it interesting how deer, somebody shows me a picture of a deer they killed, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But I'm like, I'd love.
It's not as bad as turkeys. What do they say when your buddy kills a turkey, you're 10% happy for him and 90% jealous of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the case with whitetails too, but maybe it's like an 80-20 instead of a 90-10.
I don't know. I am truly happy for people, but I'd always like, man, I wish I could have gone.
Yeah.
That'd have been a great trip. So.
Yeah.
Well, Bronson, thank you. We appreciate it.
Always enjoy you being here.
Very welcome.
Your questions were good, and hopefully our questions back to you. We appreciate everybody listening.
Yes, we do.
We certainly do. Check out the television show on Tuesday nights. Bronson, you still don't have cable, so I know you hadn't done that, but you can stream it with the Friendly app if you'll do that. And everybody else listening, it's pretty easy and fun to watch, I think. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We'll be back. Thanksgiving's coming up, so we'll probably miss everybody for 1 week.
Yeah, we should have several more blood on the biologics when we get back, though.
Yeah.
We're going on doe patrol around here, so get ready.
Good stories, I hope. So.
Yeah.
Cleveland, thank you for stepping in Richie's absence.
Good luck to Mac and Richie on the road. Y'all travel safe.
Hope they kill a big deer.
Yeah, so we can be jealous of them.
Why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Cleve.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast, and be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.